Hey guys, in the previous video, I showed you several ancient statues found in San Agustin Archaeological Park in Colombia belonging to Hinduism. In this video, I'm going to show you other statues like this one and explain what they really are. Let's take a good look at this statue. It is gigantic, more than 10 feet tall, made of one solid block of stone and is rectangular in shape. The face is portrayed with fangs in its mouth, and you can see it holding a small baby. What is the standard explanation for the statue? Mainstream experts tell us they have no idea what this is, and some have even guessed that this represents a child-eating monster-like deity. There are several statues found in this area which look about the same. According to several experts, pre-Columbian people who lived here thousands of years ago were primitive people who sacrificed children in order to please these monsters. These kind of demeaning explanations were given right from the start when the Spanish conquistadors arrived in Colombia, and the native culture seemed quite unexplainable to them. Think about it. Would human beings worship child-eating monsters? Let me tell you what is going on here. There's not only a face on top of the statue, there's one on the bottom as well. Let's invert the statue and look at the face at the bottom. The face clearly depicts extreme pain. This woman is giving birth to a baby. This is why she is gritting her teeth and clenching her fist as tightly as possible because of labor pain. This figure on top, the quote-unquote monster, is actually a doctor who's helping the woman deliver the baby. And sure enough, just like a modern-day obstetrician, he's holding the baby upside down. This is standard medical practice even today. How was I able to figure all this out? Because this story is clearly recorded in ancient Indian texts. This god is known as Thayumanavar in Hinduism, who helped women deliver healthy babies. There are temples dedicated to him in India. For example, there is a 6th century temple in a city called Trichy, where pregnant women still come from all over India to get this god's blessings for smooth and easy delivery. In India, this god is typically shown holding a baby in his hands. This is an avatar of Lord Shiva, and in South India, ancient Shiva statues are portrayed with fangs to show his ferocity. If you look at Kailasanatha temple, which is 1300 years old, all Shiva statues are portrayed with fangs. And this god, Thayumanavar, is found carved with the same fangs in many places around San Agustin in Colombia. This ancient site is called El Purutal, and it has a statue where the original painting is still intact. The god looks quite fierce because of his fangs and is shown holding a baby. The Europeans who conquered the land and later unearthed these statues had no idea about these stories and merely imagined that this was a monster who ate children. There is yet another detail on the statue which is quite fascinating. It has a crown made of several skulls. This is fantastic because we have seen the same detail in many Hindu carvings. I even showed you how some of the skulls and this crown had tiny hollows in them in a different video. There is yet another form of Shiva which is also carved in San Agustin. Look at this statue. It is shown holding a severed head in one hand and a knife in the other hand. These are specific avatars of Shiva called Bhairava, which are often shown with a severed head or a skull. Here is a typical ancient Bhairava statue from South India. Look at the severed head in one hand and the sword in the other hand. But if you look carefully, you will notice a skull necklace worn by Shiva. Here's another statue of Bhairava, also from South India. His sword has been broken, but you can clearly see how he is holding a severed head and wearing a skull necklace, and his face also shows fangs on them. Now, when the Bhairava cult moved to Nepal, look at how this iconography evolves. Bhairava looks much more fierce, again with a sword, multiple heads in one hand, and a skull garland. When Hindus moved to Indonesia, watch what happens to Bhairava. It'll be hard even for Indians to identify this as Bhairava because it almost looks completely different. But it is Bhairava. Again, fangs in his mouth, sword has shortened into a knife. And yes, this is a half skull, and he is wearing skull garland. Now, when Hindus moved to Colombia, this is what happens. Same features, fangs in his mouth, severed head in one hand, and a knife in the other. The mainstream explanation of the ancient Colombian civilization, again, is that this is a god which demanded human sacrifices, and experts claim that the people who lived here sacrificed human beings as a ritual for this evil god. But this is not what this is. Humans never worship something evil. The important detail is that the head he is holding belongs to an evil person, and the deity is basically the destroyer of evil. This is what Shiva does. He destroys evildoers. This is why these statues were worshipped, because humans believed the god would destroy evildoers. Here is yet another statue of Bhairava in San Agustin, shown with fangs, and is wearing a skull medallion in his neck. Again, quite a common representation in India. I've worked with many Bhairava followers in the past 5 years. So, this is a statue of Bhairava in San Agustin Archaeological Park. But there are some very interesting features here. He's flanked by 2 guardians or doorkeepers on either side, and they're both holding weapons. This is classic Hinduism, where a central deity is guarded by 2 guardians called Dwarapalakas. Very common in Hindu temples, and yes, they're always shown holding weapons to protect the main deity. Even more interesting, these guardians are protected by Nagas or reptilians on top. Remember, I showed you in my previous video how 2-headed reptilian figures were carved in San Agustin. Let's take a look at another statue at San Agustin. It shows Tayumanavar holding a baby, but his guardians are not humans at all. They're both Nagas, snakes. You can clearly see the scales, the ribs of the snakes. What is really fascinating is that in temples in India and Sri Lanka, the Naga Guardians are shown as partial humanoids. They're shown with hoods of the snake, but they have human features as well. When the Hindus traveled to Southeast Asia, we can see a distinct change in style. Now, the Naga Guardians began looking almost completely like snakes. Sometimes they even looked like dragons. However, when Hinduism reached Colombia, the style has changed even more. The Nagas don't even look like snakes. We can only identify them by certain features like their ribs and hoods at the top. This change in style is the main reason no one has identified these gods as Hindu gods. They look remarkably different from the Hindu gods of India because India and Colombia are very distant countries. So the style and motif has undergone an enormous change. But we are overlooking an important detail. All the Naga gatekeepers I showed you in India and Asia were not placed side by side with the main deity. The Nagas were usually placed as gatekeepers before you entered the temple and saw the main deity. But in San Agustin, this is not the case. You can see that the Nagas are placed side by side with the main statue. But when I went into the museum of San Agustin, I saw something quite interesting. They have a display of all the old photographs and they show how these structures originally looked. And sure enough, look at how this looked before the archaeologists started to, quote unquote, arrange the statues at San Agustin. The Nagas were originally placed as gatekeepers before you entered the chamber and saw the main deity. And it appears the temple would have had multiple chambers, just like regular Hindu temples, and the Nagas were placed well before entering the temple. So think about everything I've shown you. Is this an evil monster or an ancient doctor delivering a baby? Is this a deity which needs human sacrifice? Or is he a destroyer of evildoers? And these guardian doorkeepers, especially the Naga doorkeepers, a mere coincidence between Colombian and Indian civilizations? Or was San Agustin Archaeological Park an ancient Hindu temple built thousands of years ago? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'm Praveen Mohan. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and also click on the bell button to get all the updates. Please give this video a thumbs up and do share it with your friends. And I'll talk to you soon.